one meal a day. Warning, that's not for everybody. So intermittent fasting become very, very, very popular over the last few years. It is a way to maintain low insulin levels, to regain insulin sensitivity, to maintain stable blood glucose levels throughout the day. And it's a very effective fat loss strategy or metabolic health strategy for many people, right? It's a simple rule. You eat within a short period of the day. Now, one meal a day is kind of an extreme, I wouldn't say extreme, it's a loaded term, but it's a more extreme version of intermittent fasting where you're just eating once daily. For a lot of people, this can be a fantastic strategy for losing body fat and hopefully maintaining lean muscle tissue. But its effectiveness and its efficacy depends on the context, and we have to remember that there's no magic bullet. There's no one magic way of doing anything that's going to work for everybody, right? So we talk a lot about keto here. We talk a lot about carnivorous style eating, but these things have their place and their applications, and not everybody needs to do fully carnivorous diet. Not everybody needs to do a fully ketogenic diet. These are just tools to be used in their proper context. Just like a hammer and a nail, they have their place when you got to drive a nail into a stud. But a hammer and a nail aren't going to do you any good when you need a drill. So maybe that's a bad analogy, but that's the first thing that popped into my head. Intermittent fasting in many contexts can be great. Those people who might want to use intermittent fasting would be people who are trying to lose a lot of weight, who've had quite a significant amount of insulin resistance in the past. It works especially well in people who are more sedentary, right? People who work at a desk, people who work indoors, where intermittent fasting and one meal a day might not be optimal, would be people who are doing like manual labor, right? Elite athletes might not want to use a one meal a day protocol. But that doesn't mean that no elite athletes should use it. You know, I think GSP, George St. Pierre, UFC fighter, has been doing intermittent fasting for several years now in order to get back metabolic health and improve his gut function. So, just because in many elite athletes you're going to want to be fueling more frequently throughout the day, if you're doing 2 workouts a day, if you're beating your ass up in the gym, if you're trying to gain weight, right, in those cases, OMAD, one meal a day, and intermittent fasting might not be optimal. Another situation where you definitely don't want to use one meal a day is going to be if you've had a sleeve, right? If you've had a gastric sleeve. If you had the surgery, then you're going to need to eat smaller meals. One of the major issues that people can run into with one meal a day or intermittent fasting, and this is something we see a lot in our keto and carnivore collective, a lot of people who are doing keto, or a lot of people who are using fasting, intermittent fasting, one meal a day, carnivorous style diets, a lot of these people have already had a sleeve, right? Now the sleeve makes it to where you can't put as much food in your stomach. It decreases the size. This can be a good thing. It can be helpful for some people. I recommend if people haven't had a sleeve to definitely look into it. Look into the ways that you can do this non-surgically, right? Without, non-invasively. But if you've already had it done, you got to eat smaller meals. So eating one meal a day, it's going to be too much volume of food. Some people who've had gut dysbiosis issues in the past, who've had issues with digestion, Crohn's, IBS, many of those people don't do so well with a huge meal. So in those cases, having a couple meals a day, maybe 2, maybe 3, might be a better idea. Just remember, these are tools. These tools need to be considered contextual, right? So there are contexts in which a ketogenic diet and intermittent fasting night might not be ideal. Say you're a female who's, just had a baby. You're not sleeping very well at all. You already got increased caloric needs because you're breastfeeding your child and you've got to give that nutrition to your kid. In that case, intermittent fasting and one meal a day, also not going to be a good idea. Not just because you need to give nutrition to the kid and you need more caloric load, but lack of sleep, an inverted circadian rhythm, a messed up cortisol cycle, right? Like, so night shifts. This situation makes it much more difficult to do one meal a day as well. The stress hormones that are increased during the fasting period, yes, they make us feel really good, but when it gets out of balance in many people, this can become an issue. So I usually recommend, if women have hypothyroid, if they've got very, very poor sleep, night shift workers. I mean, if you're a nurse and you're working at night, first of all, God bless you. I mean, what an amazing, what a difficult job. You're in a snake pit of crazy doctors and stress in those hospitals. You've got artificial light beaming on you all day and night. My grandmother was a nurse, and I really appreciate the work you do. If you're a nurse, you're working all night, or if you're working night shift, no matter what job you got, you're probably not going to want to do one meal a day or do too much extended fasting, just due to the circadian rhythm disruptions that happen. It can make it a lot more difficult. So these strategies, they all have their place, right? And just because most elite athletes won't want to be doing one meal a day doesn't mean that some people that are highly trained can't do it, right? Now, if you're trying to build muscle, multiple meals throughout the day might be required for you, right? Not all of us can sit down and get enough caloric load in one meal to be able to build muscle and gain weight. So if you're underweight, like many people are starting a ketogenic diet after transitioning from a nutrient-depleted, nutrient-deficient vegan diet. If you're coming from a place of malnourishment, then eating multiple meals a day might be better as well. You know? So there are many contexts in which OMAD should be avoided. There are many contexts in which intermittent fasting itself should be avoided. You've got to remember, these are just tools. There's no one magic tool that's going to be the silver bullet for all your health issues for everything, right? There's no, oh, you just got to eat this one food and everything's going to be fixed. Or if you just follow this one rule, everything will fall in line, right? You know, the one rule diet, the closest thing to the perfect one rule diet that I've ever seen is a carnivorous diet, where people are told to eat meat and drink water. Now, I'm not saying that everybody should do that long term. I'm just saying that tends to work for a lot of people very consistently as, like, you know, the one rule. You eat enough meat, you eat enough protein, your satiety drops. Your satiety increases. Your hunger levels drop. So it makes it very, very easy to maintain low intake of food and thus lose body fat if you're trying to. It removes all the potential offensive foods to the digestive tract, all the fiber, all the potential lectins, oxalates, salicylates. So that one rule diet might be the closest thing to the silver bullet that people are finding nowadays, but still, we've got to realize it's about context. Not everybody's ready to jump into eating a bunch of meat. A lot of people are transitioning from diets where they believed in their in the past that meat was bad, that saturated fat, that animal foods are not good for health. So not everybody's even psychologically able to eat that much meat. So remember, these tools can be used effectively and efficiently by many people, but it doesn't mean that they're going to work for everybody in all contexts. That's why we're always talking about context here. So one of the things we notice in our group coaching in our Keto and Carnivore Collective is that there are a lot of people who are using intermittent fasting who maybe don't need to be and who maybe shouldn't be doing it. You know, in the last few Keto and Carnivore Collective groups, we've had more people interested in carnivorous style eating, which is why we actually had to add the name Keto and Carnivore Collective to the group coaching thing. We get a lot of data there. You know, I mean, we're working with 30 to 50 people usually each month in a very intimate setting where we're doing several live interactive voice chats per week. And we've got a live Discord server where you're able to communicate with each other, support each other for the community aspect, as well as ask us any questions you need and have full support from your coach. We get a lot of data in there. And what I end up finding is that there are a lot of ladies who start intermittent fasting right away when they perhaps shouldn't be intermittent fasting right away. So it's all about context, guys. It's all about what works for you in your individual situation and your life, right? So don't go rushing into any dietary dogma thinking that this is going to be the one magic pill. One meal a day, intermittent fasting, great tools. Not necessary for everybody, not a magical panacea, and not applicable across all contexts. So keep it in context, guys. The next Keto and Carnivore Collective is actually starting this Sunday for the November session. I believe that's going to be November 4th. We may do a December one, or we may take a break, because we've been doing back-to-back Keto and Carnivore Collectives. It's a lot of fun. We get to meet a lot of people. We get to have a very intimate connection with you, because we're able to give you more attention than just with private coaching clients. Still do private consultations, but I prefer to kind of shepherd people towards the Keto and Carnivore Collective. It's just more fun. You get interactive voice chats several times a week rather than just one monthly Skype meeting. But some people are shy and they prefer the private consultations, and that's fun with me too. The intimacy is nice. So anyways, you can find more at primaledgehealth.com. 1 meal a day, intermittent fasting, ketogenic diet, carnivore diet. None of these are magical tools, magical panaceas. They're going to work for everybody. It's all about your individual context, what you can stick with and enjoy long term. It's about what's sustainable and maintainable with your lifestyle. So figure out what works for you, stick with it, and enjoy it. You can find more at primaledgehealth.com. Get off the TV, get off the computer, kill your Facebook, throw your freaking television away, get out there in the real world, talk to real people, question your assumptions, question the bullshit you're told through your television, through your social media. And disconnect from that bullshit and live what's real and seek the truth. I'll see you guys next time. Go live your life.